All of my keeners who know that I open the episodes with a gift code, let me throw those down for you right now. You can head off to the website, take advantage of all the things, and then we'll go on a heart-centered journey. If you head to daniellelaporte.com/membership, the code LIFE15, that's LIFE15, gets you $15 off of your first month in the life track of the Heart Center membership. So that's code LIFE15. And then if you want to join the business track of the membership, you use the code BIZ, BIZ50, BIZ50, and that gets you $50 off of your first month in the Heart Center membership on the business track. Hello, my loves. Today is going to be a tour of my inner evolution with being over-identified as being an introvert, with hosting, holding, teaching, learning from the thousands of people who have been a part of the Heart-Centered membership. And then I'm going to tell you about some beautiful shifts that have been made with simple devotional practices in our community for the purposes of two things. One, unabashedly inviting you into the Heart-Centered membership, because this is registration week. I'm going to tell you about why I don't do it the way I used to do it. So if you are entrepreneurially minded, if you have any kind of community, there's going to be some good nuggets in here for you. And if you consider yourself to be on the path, if you are struggling with forgiveness, I mean, my gosh, you're here in With Love, Danielle world. We're all in this together, so let's just go. I started my membership about 4.5 years ago when it was like still a new thing. And as many things that I've created, I relented to the pressure. So backtrack, one of my first books was The Desire Map. And for 3 years, we had people emailing us almost every week asking if they could license the material in the Desire Map and use it as a workshop or turn it into some kind of teaching methodology. And of course, obviously, there's money to be made there and a community to be built and a brand to foster. But I wasn't ready. It just felt too unwieldy. And the upside of control issues, I don't know. Is being a control freak? It's not. I've never identified as a control freak. I identify as queen of my mandala. I have specific visions and I want them rolled out in the most beautiful possible way. So I didn't feel like Desire Map at the time could be held in beauty and precision and we could build something solid. So finally, 3 years later, I was like, okay, I'm ready. And we created something that had legs, and we rolled out this gorgeous curriculum. I had a facilitator directory, and then we ended up with having hundreds of facilitators teaching this content with kids in colleges and in detention centers and in boardrooms and at law firms and 30 plus countries. And that is the result of me waiting to do it right, which is a bit ironic, and it feels a little bit, I don't know, hypocritical, paradoxical, because there's a lot of times I don't wait. I think the creative genius, the luminosity in getting stuff right is really about just following your inner timing, because there's so many times where I'm just like, this is half cooked. I haven't thought this through. It's not even to my design standards, but I'm feeling like there's some currency. I feel like there's some woman doing laps around a lake in her neighborhood, or there's some marriage falling apart, or there's someone whose nervous system is going to get a little more regulated if I just talk about this stuff right now. And then someone doesn't feel as alone. And then sometimes you just, as an entrepreneur, you got to get the cash flowing. You got to experiment with things. And there's times, there's valleys in the production calendar where this is a good time to experiment. Let's do this course. I did the Nourish System course, $333. Let's see if this works. It worked in lots of ways. It actually generated a lot of healing, but it doesn't work in my overall heart-centered ecosystem. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with the Nourish System program because it still sells, and I am actually getting a steady stream of requests. Here we go again, for people to license that curriculum and use it in different ways, and we'll see. I'm gestating with that. But here's my evolution with creating, maintaining, nurturing a membership community. This was another push to pressure point where all the cool kids were starting memberships. I have always had a really engaged community. Like the people on my subscriber list, my email list, I now have 220 some thousand people on that list. Personally, I think after being at this for so long, I should have 1 million people on that list. But my list is engaged. My people have been with me for a while. There's been a lot of trust built up as a result of, I think, my transparency of like, hey, everybody, this is what I went through and this is what I learned. And this is me with no makeup and this is me unfiltered. And let me give you the behind the scenes on my dark night of the soul. All the things, just the way that feels for me most, well, obviously authentic, but I'm not that interested in, it's not authenticity that drives me, right? What drives me is service. How can I be most useful now? The answer for that is always currency and intimacy. Actually, let me give you the definition. I looked it up before I pressed record. Intimacy synonyms: personal, private, belonging, sacred, familiarity. Intima, intimado. The first known use of the word intimacy is in 1641. How do they know that? Does AI just scan everything that was ever written and, oh, that's the first time intimacy popped up? Doesn't matter to me. Intimacy is really my raison d'être. And it is why I've become a better facilitator, a better leader, and it's why the Heart Center membership is banging. So 4 years ago when I started the membership and everybody was starting memberships, and my team at the time, I have a completely different team than I did a decade ago. I have a completely different team pretty much than I did 18 months ago. There's just been so much catharsis and clarity. But my team 4 or 5 years ago was like, listen, we got to make this move. It's potentially lucrative. Your people want more of you. You can create more of a container, all the things. And I was like, yeah, okay. It finally feels right. But this is how it started. I am both embarrassed and delighted to tell you this. It started with me just focusing on creating guidebooks. So the content, if I do say so, has always been high frequency, gold vibration, solid stuff. I have been working for almost a decade now with a metaphysical practitioner, VS. That's a whole other amazing mystical story about how she came into my life and I think saved my life. And we grew to be collaborators. So every visualization, meditation, metaphysical practice, the heart-centered altar kit, all the rituals and practices that are part of the Heart Center membership, some of which are also in my shop, daniellelaporte.com. Those are all co-created with VS. So I just don't come up with an inner child meditation using pink and gold color frequencies with particular nature visualizations because it's pretty or because it just, feels fun. All of the esoteric stuff in the heart-centered community is validated, verified, comes from an actual practitioner who comes from a lineage of knowledge and is versed in all kinds of spiritual modalities and histories. We're not making this up. We are teaming with depth. So VS teamed with me in the very beginning of the Heart Center membership. And we're like, okay, This is what we're going to create. This is what we're going to launch according to what's happening with the planets. This is why in January, we're going to focus on this theme. March is all about Aries and fire. So we're going to focus on mindfulness and staying calmer. May is about the divine feminine and nourishing our capacity to be more receptive to higher guidance. So there's a metaphysical methodology behind everything. But this is how I started. This is where the me comes in. Is I just did these guidebooks, all in print, PDFs, and they were gorgeous. We spent so much time. This was a big lesson. We spent too much time creating these beautiful guidebooks. I didn't do Zoom calls. There was no actual two-way interaction with my members because that's where I was at the time. And I think it was where I was at, but it was a big shortcoming. Then I was like, okay, I'm going to do meetings. We'll do once a month. We'll do on Zoom. I didn't even invite people to turn on their cameras. I just did it preaching style. No two-way. I was over-identified as being a publisher, a broadcaster, just transmitting wisdom and excessively introverted. I felt shy. I wanted to keep it private. And I'm not a big joiner. So I was like, who's going to want to ask questions of me live? Who's going to want to talk to other members? We don't need to see each other's face to have this learning touch us on a cellular level. But guess what? You do. Just because your content is great doesn't mean that you're a great facilitator. You can have the gold. I have turned my life into my teaching. I am par excellent at transparency, but it doesn't mean that I'm a great deliverer of that stuff. And I have learned to be that. I mean, one of the wisest things I've done, and I teach everybody in my space, whether it's how you show up in intimate relationships or how you show up online as a teacher, you've got to crush your gimmicks. Just because something was your hook and it worked for you 18 months ago doesn't mean you need to carry it forward. I've talked to so many coaches over the years when I was doing one-on-one business strategy. And they're like, listen, I've made my money and I have my brand built on being, let's say, a weight loss coach. And now I've learned so much more about relationship connection or parenting or meditation, whatever it is. And I don't want to leave my weight loss people behind. I don't want to lose them, don't want to disappoint them. And I'm just like, look, you need to be in the energy of your evolution because that is what is magnetic. And the people who have resonance with you will come with you. And the other people, they can fall off and they'll find new teachers and new coaches. And you need to honor where you're at. And that will be more magnetic. You also need to have the courage. And this applies to being a parent and a teacher and anybody with a platform and a manager. You need to have the courage to change in front of other people. I mean, I really think this is one of the many layers of intimacy. You might get canceled. You might get left behind. People are going to leave your stuff. Some people are going to doubt where you're going, but you are going somewhere that is more integrated and whole and wiser. And so you can say, I tried this and it didn't work. People will be learning from your shared mistakes and your lived, ongoing experiment. And that is the nature of life and building wisdom. So I approach everything still, always, as an experiment. My podcast, different social media platforms, all the things. It's just like we try it. Does it stick? Do we love it? Are people thanking us for it? Do we feel lit up when we're actually creating it? Then we keep going. If not, if there's crickets, if I feel overscheduled or like I have to push my energy out, if I'm just not jazzed to do it, like if I'm late on creating something, I need to just not be making it anymore. Or I need to work on the system that supports and holds my creativity. Jump cut to all of my personal evolution, the challenges, the dark nights, going from me at 11:30 at night pressing publish on WordPress blog posts to having a team and the burgeoning effect of, the global brain that is social media, all that stuff. This is where we're at now. The Heart Center membership has become the center of my creative professional universe. It is my favorite thing that I do. It has given me, I actually feel moved when I talk about it. It's given me way more than I ever thought was possible. The reciprocity, I always feel like this membership creation and community is like this infinity loop. This light comes down, I get to be the vehicle for that, and this infinity loop extends from my heart into the people who show up to be together and to hear more about goodwill and forgiveness and how to create resiliency and sanity and all the things that we teach and talk about. And everything we offer happens on Thursdays at 1 p.m. Pacific time. It took me a decade to figure out that 1 p.m. Pacific is the 1 hour of the day that hits all time zones pretty much globally. Thursdays are ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet that gives us the energy of expansion. It's about information dissemination, bigger ideas. So it's a great day for teaching. So the first Thursday of every month, I teach a life workshop. It's not a class. It's a workshop. Classes for me are, I'm just going to preach, deliver this information to you, and then you take whatever you want from it, leave the rest. Workshops, more interactive, engaging. There's pauses for music, for people doing their own Q&A exercises. Sometimes we do breakout rooms. I cannot believe I am this person. Most cameras on, engagement, knowing people's names. If I haven't seen someone in the community for a while, I DM them, or somebody else on the team reaches out to see how they are. I created a system where if someone needs to pause their membership because of financial hardship, or they're going traveling, or this is one of the best things I've ever heard. I want to pause my membership for a while because I just want to marinate in all the learnings and be my own guru. Fantastic. So I have a 90-day pause practice now. We'll just get back to you in 3 months and say, you're ready to come back in. And that means that you keep your price locked in. The pricing now for the Heart Center membership is only $25 a month, which is phenomenally, wonderfully, absurdly low for the value that you get. Let me continue to talk about the evolution. In addition to that life workshop that we do every month, there's a heart-centered membership app that is gorgeous. It's categorized by body, mind, spirit, work in the world, play. It's full of mantras categorized by mantras that help you sleep better, regulate your nervous system, help you cleanse your energy bodies, dozens and dozens of them, dozens of playlists of me just being Danielle, the DJ, from dancey and fancy to just chill, kind of, sexy stuff. And then there is a whole system where you choose your own journey for meditating, for visualizing, for doing bathing rituals. I've got a heart-centered altar kit, which I love, love, love. It's not just about setting up pretty vignettes of deities and pictures of friends, although that is a beautiful thing to do, because every time you walk by that, you have a beautiful, energetic moment of remembering who you love and why you love them. But the heart-centered altar kit, co-created with VS, Energy Healer, is a more esoteric, kind of verified approach. These are the elements you need to have on your altar. These are the best times of the month or the year, equinox, solstices, new moons, to add new things and remove things to your altar. We treat it like this acupuncture point on the planet. So that's all in this membership hub portal. We're in a partnership now with Searchy. That's another thing we've learned over the years. We've cleaned up so much technology, overpaying for list management things, overpaying for fancy graphic design. We use a lot of templates that have the flexibility to allow me to be the creative control visionary of precision that I am. We choose our own colors, our own typefaces, and then we just get to drop things in a really efficient, economical way. We're using a lot of Canva. We have just switched over everything in our membership, working with Searchy. If you head to Searchy, that's searchie.io, learn all about how to organize your content, your memberships, get everything transcribed. Now, so now when someone comes into the Heart Center membership, and you could be doing this for your own kind of content, if you want to search terms like inner child, conversation starter, energy cleansing, visualization, relationship, you can key in your term, and everything I have ever offered in video format, audio format, whether it's Zoom or it's a podcast or it's a workshop, any kind of call with the members, it's all there for you. It all gets pinned to these key search words. It's incredible. My intention has always been to have a sacred space in a digital format where if it's 11:30 at night and you are wigging out, you can come and just get a 5-minute audio. You can get something to help you regulate, go to sleep, just one little insight. You could get a program where I support you to meditate every day for as long as you want to go through it. And when you outgrow that meditation, because that's really what I hope to have happen, that's the experience in my own life. I work with specific practices, 6 months, a year, sometimes practices for 3 years at a time, and they do their work on me. I evolve out of the systems. So I love hearing when the members say, I did the inner child meditation for 3 months and it really helped me create a better connection with my shadow self and my ego. And now I want to move on to the more zing stuff, the golden light body meditation, and I want to work on cleansing my auric field. Great, grow. Fortify that connection between your small self and your higher self, your everyday life and your soul. Embody forgiving. Some of my favorite moments in my 15-year career have to do with forgiveness stories. We're in a heart-centered membership workshop. One of the women raises her hand in the Zoom call and says, I'm really having a hard time forgiving my very elderly mother who is probably not going to be on the planet very longer, and I would love to forgive her before she died. And we talked about the virtue of forgiveness, the heart being for giving, and I offer all that kind of metaphysical, compassionate perspective about how she can generate forgiveness for her mom. And then one of our members raises her hand and says, if I may, let me tell you how this has worked for me. And Gina's been public about this story, so I can share it with you now. Gina, Heart Center member, goes to a music festival and runs into the woman who was her former husband's mistress, who is now her former husband's new bona fide partner. She goes on to explain that she didn't freak out, she didn't throw up, she didn't wig, that she was able to have a really calm, heart-centered conversation with the former mistress who in that moment approached her and apologized to her. And Gina received the apology and didn't turn it into a big story. This is Gina's explanation of the music festival moment. And she said, because of doing the practices in heart-centered, whether it's just a discussion about the dynamics of forgiving, or whether it's a 4-minute heart-centering rainbow light practice that we have, she didn't flip and she didn't let it ruin her day. All of her friends who are around her are like, are you serious? How you doing? And she's like, hey, there's a new band playing. Let's go dance. One of the highlights of my career. And then there's Stacy H, also been public with this. She has an unbroken streak of meditating, at least the last time we talked. It's over 670 days in a row. Sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 4 minutes while she's in motion, but a regular devotional practice of checking in with her soul, asking and receiving higher guidance. That's the stuff. The stuff is working. I want to cry. There's Rob. Rob's a Hare Krishna. Rob took 2 years took a break from the Heart Center membership. And I kept wondering, where is Rob? I haven't seen Rob. I love seeing his little avatar with his gray beard every time I do a class or I'm on an IG live. Where did he go? He came back. We had a conversation one-on-one the other day. I love my people. And he let me know he had to go off for this beautiful heart situation, and he's back in, devoted, always on time. And just his energy being in the space, I know affects other people. Part of it is this kind of calming wisdom that he radiates, and part of it is the consistency of showing up. I've heard stories about people who learn to stay quiet at work. And maybe that doesn't sound like a success, but for these people, not saying the thing that's going to trigger everything is the success point. And it turns out that sometimes heart-centered leadership is silent. You choose to respond instead of react. I think that's really one of my key intentions with everything I do, which is I want to create tools and offer thought concepts and practices. I mean, one overall that help people create conditions of healing in their life, but most specifically to help you regulate your nervous system. And I think nervous system regulation should be the number one priority of every single person, of every single not yet enlightened person on the planet. Because when your brain chemistry is working in the way it should, and you are not in physical pain, and your gut is healthy, and everything is closer to vibrant and vital, you have the space and the support, the physical, material support to have a more devoted practice. You think more clearly. Your tone will shift when you talk to your inner critic. You will pay more attention to your inner child, your ego, your unhealed stuff. And, I think in the times that we're living in, I think so many of us have not fully consciously done what we need to do to recover from the trauma that has been the last 4 years on the planet. I think a lot of us wanted to rush to get back to normal, and the weirdness, the not okayness of everything that went down has just been suppressed deeper in people's psyches, and it's coming up in the form of anxiety and depression. And I have a remedy for that, by the way. It's called community. Other things I've heard from our membership community is one Zoom call where they heard just one thing that they weren't expecting, and it helped them get off the couch, and they had been on the couch for a very long time. One idea, 3 minutes of breathing together, the dedication of merit that we do to open all of our meetings that helps someone finally tap into their tears. Some people say they cry less, and some people say they cry more as a result of the mantras, the visualizations, the conversations, and knowing that they're not alone. One of my favorite living testimonials is a woman who said that she was able to stop going to therapy. I'm not a therapist, by the way, although, this is a very therapeutic experience. She was able to stop going to therapy, saved a lot of money, because she committed to doing the ocean and rose practice where you offer up your suffering. It's so beautiful. The visualization is you're seeing yourself seated in front of this ocean. There's this basket of roses. You're speaking your pain into the roses, and then you offer it up. There's way more to that. Don't do the MacGyver version of that visualization. Come and get it. If you don't want to be in the membership or you're not in there already, it's in the shop. And it's super reasonably priced. You bring in light frequencies, and there's prayers that go with it, and all these other layers, and it's quite a complex one. But she did that for 21 days. and really got to the healing of some trauma and was able to see her way through. There's a reason why everybody and their dog has a membership right now, because we actually need community. The approach to this is, you've got to find people that you resonate with. You want to find somebody who is in it for the right reasons. I mean, memberships can be really scalable and super lucrative. They're a great entrepreneurial revenue stream. But what's the vibration of the content? The generosity of the content? Is it beautifully designed? Is it well structured? Is it accessible? Okay, that's my checklist. And is being engaged with the people and the content actually creating results for you? This is the thing about the wellness space, is a lot of what the good folks in this milieu offer are considered soft skills. I think being more intuitive, knowing how to regulate your nervous system based on your default stress reaction. I think knowing how to actually practice loving kindness communication with everybody in your life, from people at work to strangers to the people who've been driving you crazy for years. I don't think those are soft skills. I think those are light ray skills that create the future that we all want to live in. I think those are the skills that have you lead a life that you love. Those are the skills that will end wars and clean up rivers and oceans and have children everywhere treated properly. Education that actually expands the kids. These so-called soft skills are the heart of mysticism that has been around since the beginning of time. These so-called soft skills keep you off the drugs. They heal addiction. These so-called soft skills are great for intimacy and ecstasy and euphoria and feeling and knowing that your life is on purpose. These soft skills are both for prosperity and abundance and health and wealth and wisdom. And that, my loves, is the prowess, the intelligence, the sexiness, the wisdom of living a heart-centered life. And here we go. Let's do it. The Heart-Centered Membership registration closes this Sunday, June 30th. I have 2 gift codes for you to use. I'll give you these gift codes now, and then I'll tell you a little more about the structure, and then I have one more love story for you. Head to daniellelaporte.com/membership. And if you want to join the life track, it's all laid out there for you to investigate and see which track you want to belong on. If you want to join the life track, you use the code LIFE15, and you get $15 off your first month in the membership. And the membership is only $25 a month for the life track. If you want to join the business track, I'll explain that in a second. The code is BIZ50, BIZ50 for the life track. I have to make the code expire at midnight on June 30th because then I'm going to close the doors. So let me tell you a little more about my evolution from being a over-identified introvert and not even really engaging with the members and just creating these beautiful, over-designed, really expensive to make guidebooks that millennials couldn't print out, because I've since learned that millennials don't have printers. What? How can you be a graphic designer making things for people to print out on paper and not have a printer? Guess what? If that's your situation, you do not work on my team. And I get it. Do you know that 80% of people get 80% of their content on their phone? And then 80% of people engaging with content on their phone are reading it. So all of the audios that are transcribed are the ones that are getting consumed. You have to have text captions for all your stuff. Anyway, that was just a little side note. I finally learned how to deliver great content in a way that the learning gets transmitted, and learning transmission has become my favorite term. It's about pacing. It's about reminding people of the learning cues. It's about letting them talk amongst themselves, learning from each other. It's about not overwhelming people with a lot of layers, which is my favorite thing. I mean, my blessing, my challenge is always over delivering. I mean, if you've been in the community, if you've been in my ecology at all, you know, like we are givers. So this is how it works. First Thursday of the month, as I mentioned, we have the life workshop. I throw down on the deep stuff, on inner child work, on forgiving. I talk about how we turn rejection into a source of clarity and self-referencing. I talk about the principles of validation. There's a shadow side and a light side to how we seek and how we give validation. And then always there's these metaphysical principles and great metaphors baked into everything. First Thursday every month, life workshop. And then I take the healing prompts. We usually have about 3 healing prompts for every workshop. And I stay in your face with those throughout the month. On the app, in the Sunday email, I've got to keep reminding you about those truth bombs so you can really find out how they're going to work in your life. Just pick one of the prompts and find the one that you resonate with most. Second Thursday of the month, in the life track, we have a pep and integration call. It's like a merging of a pep rally where we're just really excited to be together, and then we integrate the learnings. Let's just go back to what were the 4 points about validation, and what was that metaphor that helped you get clear on how the astral, mental, and energy bodies work? Yes, reminders. Okay, then for the people in the business track, you get everything in the life track, and then we have 2 additional very focused meetings that month, also on Thursdays at 1 p.m. One is a creative session, and that's where I throw down on soulful marketing that doesn't suck and how to get in right relationship with the algorithm and team development and writing and publishing and all those things. I love those meetings. And then the 4th Thursday of the month, business trackers meet for an ops meeting. And that's where Dana and Elizabeth, Dana is our chief of staff, Elizabeth is our production and marketing director. They guide a call on talking about tech stacks, technology, building your lists, cleaning up your lists, HR development. So juicy. And then in all of these places, you have a beautiful team supporting you. You've got Melissa, who's been an OG, beginning as a desire map facilitator into a heart-centered leader. She's an instructional design expert. She's cheering us on with her knowledge and wisdom. And then there's David in the house. David, one of my favorite Canadians. David is also IG and made that whole journey with us from how do you want to feel days to what do you want to embody to marketing and customer service excellence. And this is one of my favorite offerings. This is part of learning transmission. And this is part of what's easiest and most joyful for me. Everything in the life workshop gets turned into audiobooks. So you just got to think workshop, audiobook. Edited, beautiful, all the M's and the A's, so we can go for a walk together. It's like having your own private, heart-centered, audible system. And there's more. There's always more because generosity has me feel the most alive. It has me feel closest to God. For me, I don't know why I'm getting emotional. I think, it's back to that infinity loop of like everything I've received from everything I've given. It's more. I tell you, you always get more back. It's the way it works. Generosity for me is intimacy, and intimacy is my favorite. That is everything for now. That's the evolution, the learning, the layers, and the invitation from my heart to yours. DanielleLaporte.com/membership. Heart-centered, all the way. All right, you will hear me back here next Wednesday with love. Always, Danielle. Thank you so much for listening, for feeling, for spreading the word. With love.